Welcome to Man of Steel Crammed. With the Snyder Cut of the Justice League soon coming out, let's take a look back at the main two DC Cinematic Universe films that led up to its events. Starting with 2013's grim take on Superman. Let's go. We begin on the alien planet of Krypton, where the woke Jor-El tries to explain to the Council of Elders that mining the core of the planet is causing an ecological disaster. But he's interrupted by a military coup led by General Zod, who is also sick of seeing the impending doom of his race, but in a more Nazi kind of way, and Jor-El won't join him. So during the midst of a planet-wide civil war, he makes his escape and dives into the Genesis chamber to steal the Codex, the genetic source of all Kryptonian DNA that's used to govern the development of their people. Zod also wants it for a more genetically pure future, so Jor-El and his wife Lara seal the data away with his naturally newborn son, which just isn't done anymore, on an escape pod bound for the distant planet of Earth, where the radiation from its young son will make him powerful like a god compared to the natives. That's us! And with his plans thwarted, Zod kills Jor-El. His coup is defeated, and so the High Council of Inaction freezes the general and his crew off into space to go spend some time out in the Phantom Zone and be someone else's problem. Except that Jor-El's initial point about the planet being overmined doesn't conveniently go away, and Krypton is destroyed by the hubris of its own people. So, over on Earth, Kal-El has grown up and works off the grid on a fishing rig. He's keeping his alien status quiet, but still feels compelled to use his strength to help people when he can. Let's go back a bit. A young Clark Kent growing up on Earth has a tough childhood, struggling to deal with X-ray vision, hearing everything and feeling isolated to hide his powers. But his mother Martha, that name will be important later, is a rock in the storm. But now a little older, there's a school bus crash off a bridge that puts everyone in danger, and a young Clark acts on instinct to save them, even including the class bully. This type of stuff is making the other mums ask a lot of questions that the Kent family try to play off. His dad Jonathan reminds him that they have to keep his power a secret, and that the people will react with fear if they knew his true identity, that of an alien baby that crash-landed in a space pod on their farm. So modern-day Clark continues to keep a low profile, working in a bar and eavesdropping on military discoveries, but despite scumbags, he does his best to hide his power, although he does use the guy's truck as a stress ball before moving on. Meanwhile, in the Arctic, frontline news reporter Lois Lane investigates an unusual discovery under the eye of Colonel Hardy. There's something more than 20,000 years old under the ice, and she spots Clark casually strolling over for a look himself when out for some night photography. Kal-El heat visions himself straight down to discover an ancient Kryptonian ship that recognizes the ID chip his true father left him. Lois isn't invited and stabbed by the security drone, but Clark gets there just in time to say hi and cauterize her internal bleeding before dropping her off. He then launches the ship out of the ice to keep it away from prying eyes, unaware that it sent a beacon out into space. Turns out that data chip also stored the persona of his father Jor-El, who explains that many seed chips were sent out from old Krypton back in the day to lay the foundations of future growth. But Kryptonian society had changed over the years with population control and artificial birth chambers to predetermine people's roles in society. So now knowing his true heritage, Clark puts on the family outfit and begins to truly test the limits of his strength, learning to focus his efforts and even be able to fly. Meanwhile, Lois writes about her experiences for the Daily Planet, but her editor isn't going to run a story about aliens, and the Pentagon is denying everything. So she turns to the shady world of online journalism instead. She's keen to find Clark and tracks back through his wandering life, connecting the dots until she finally visits the Kent farm for an interview. The thing is that Clark's grown to believe that the world isn't ready to know who he truly is, to the point that his father Jonathan Kent had stopped him from saving his own life in front of witnesses when they were caught in a tornado years ago. And so, believing the good in him, Lois drops her investigation, and her editor, Perry White, is glad to hear it because he also thinks that the news of a godlike alien wouldn't be good for people. But over in a military, General Swanwick and his team have just discovered something mysterious, having entered into lunar orbit, before it drops down into the atmosphere and makes the headlines, sending out a worldwide broadcast to all nations explaining that they're not alone. It's General Zod. He's been on the hunt for Kal-El and the Kryptonian Codex since his exile, and demands that the former Kryptonian surrender himself to them or watch Earth suffer the consequences. So now the debate is on, and all of a sudden people do want to hear about Lois's article regarding the alien man, including the FBI and old General Hardy, and so Clark has to take a leap of faith in humanity. He arrives at the US Army to demand Lois, who never revealed his true identity, is released in return for his surrender. He gets some interview time where she almost calls him Superman, and Clark lets everyone know he can see through walls, but that he's not their enemy. He will surrender himself to Zod in order to save Earth. So Sub-Commander Feora Ul comes to pick him up, but they want Lois as well. And back on their Phantom ship, Zod extends a welcome, but Clark is reacting to the Kryptonian atmosphere and falls sick. But Zod is still able to reach his thoughts and explain his nature. After being sent to the Phantom Zone for his attempt to correct the course of Krypton, they were freed by the destruction of their home world, and seeking to find more of their kind on other scout ship worlds, they found only more dead, but did get their hands on a world builder. So good news! Zod plans to use the Codex data to rebuild Kryptonian society, and he'll use the world builder to do a hard reformatting of the planet Earth, wiping out its current inhabitants. But despite being as weak as a human in their environment, Clark won't give up the Codex location. He also slipped that data stick over to Lois while they were being flown over. So while in captivity, she plugs it into a terminal, and the Jor-El persona stored within it is able to upload to the ship's mainframe. He returns some of that old Earth air into the system, and helps Lois escape the ship and get back to Earth, before telling his son he truly has what it takes to save them all. Zod and his goons in the meantime have popped down to see if the Codex is stored in Clark's old baby pod, and to bully his mum. This was a mistake, as Superman comes in at 200 miles an hour to repeatedly beat his face in and crack his armor, exposing him to Earth's atmosphere, and he experiences his own supervision and hearing for the first time, being utterly disorientated by something that Clark has had a lifetime to get used to. Zod is rushed back to his ship while Feora Ul and a big guy hang back to fight Clark while the military shoots at everyone, putting themselves in danger too, despite Superman clearly helping. So they fight hand to hand in an IHOP for a bit, before moving into the rest of town, causing some big time damage. The army is still shooting all of them, which by now is just rude, so Feora makes short work of the human military, before Superman power punches the big guy into a train yard, just in time to save Colonel Hardy's life. And as the Kryptonians retreat, people finally understand that Superman is not their enemy. Zod's science team discover that the Codex data of their entire race has in fact been stored in Kal-El's blood, and they don't need him alive in order to get it out. So they release the world engine and just get straight into some hardcore seismic terraforming down in the Indian Ocean and also over the city of Metropolis. This is a slowly expanding destruction level gravity event as they terraform from both sides of the planet at the same time, spit roasting the Earth. But the Jor-El persona has given Lois the information needed to destroy the Phantom ship over the city, by using the baby pod's engine core to collide with Zod's Phantom drive and destroy it in a singularity. So Superman flies round to the other side of the planet for the world engine, whilst the Air Force moves in on Metropolis. Clark, at great cost, fires himself into the world builder and manages to destroy it, getting knocked out by the blast, but bringing the terraforming to a halt. But as the Air Force ready the baby pod to launch it into Zod's Phantom ship, the gravity field around it is redirecting the missile fire to blow up civilians, and they have to fly in closer. However, Zod has grown accustomed to Earth quickly, and after deleting Jor-El, flies that seed ship from earlier over to intercept them. But Superman crashes in, declaring Krypton's time is over, and while fending off the relentless attack of Feora Ul, who's boarded the plane, Colonel Hardy thwarts her at the last moment to crash it directly into the Phantom drive, setting off a singularity that destroys the ship and all of Zod's men. Lois, however, is of course thrown free at the last second so that Superman can save her from the gravity implosion. And in the rubble of his failed efforts, Zod laments the end of his race and swears vengeance on humanity. He'll make this planet suffer. General Zod is a genetically developed Kryptonian warrior, and he faces Superman on more than equal footing as the gods fight through Metropolis, causing even more collateral destruction, crashing satellites, drops down from space, and repeatedly punching each other through buildings. And eventually Zod forces Kal-El's hand as he tries to use his own heat rays to kill more innocent people. The truth is he'll never stop, and Superman breaks his neck, being forced to kill the last of his own people for the sake of Earth. Oh my god. And so Superman visits General Swanwick one day to ask him to stop with all the surveillance drones, confirming that he's just here to help. And Martha tells him that his father Jonathan always knew he was destined for greater things, protecting his secret until the world was ready. And so Clark gets a day job as a reporter, so that he can keep his ear to the ground, fooling everybody with just a pair of glasses, except for Lois. So thanks a lot for watching, and I really hope you've enjoyed having the Man of Steel crammed inside of you. These fuller film summaries are designed to give you a bit more flavour than just a 1-minute quickie, so hit that subscribe button and ring the bell icon to get notified of the next video, and I'll see you then. Take care.